Right. You name it.
So
She shouldn't have sang about food if she didn't want that to happen.
Right.
so number 3, name or share an experience that occurred in your life or somebody close to you where for you it was like, okay, I know what I believe is real. After this happened, there's no way you can tell me that what I believe in is not real. So for me, I was driving to college. I think I had a test that morning, and it was raining, and my car, I lost control of my car, and it did a 360 on, we call it the expressway where I'm from. It did a 360 on the expressway, and cars were coming, and I was just like, Jesus, Jesus. Like, so I held the wheel and I closed my eyes and I just screamed out, Jesus. When I opened up my eyes, I was off to the side on the guardrail. But when I lost control of the car, I was in the middle of the expressway, spinning. So for me, like, that was a moment where I was like, okay, all right, you heard me. And so it was, I didn't end up getting hurt. I was able to make it up there to school for my test and stuff, but it was like just a really scary experience, and it was one of them experiences that I had to go through. And it's one of those ones, like, you know, if you explain it to somebody, it don't mean as much to them because it didn't happen to them. But you knew that fear you had within you. You knew that hopelessness, that sense of, okay, I'm done. So, like, yeah, that was one of many. Anybody else?
For me, I've had many experiences. I've been in some very dark places in my life. And let me just tell you, God is good. Let's just put it that way. So, for me, you know, being in my dark places, and I had to come up out of it. So for me, it was a lot of prayer. There was that. There was some scary times, like when they called us to tell us that our pastor was dying, Bishop Bailey. They said Bishop Bailey was dying. Well, he was dead. And then they brought him home to die in hospice care, and he lived for another 2 years. That to me was like, it was almost like he brought him back and kind of prepared us more. Because like after that, like he did a lot of traveling within the churches to kind of set a lot of things in order and in place. That was kind of scary though. It was kind of weird. There was that. There was, you know, the time I should have been in the car that got wrapped around the tree, but I ended up missing my ride back to school that day, and my dad ended up having to take me to school because a girl who I was riding with back, because I was in Edinburgh, so when the girl would come home on the weekend because she had a car, she would drop me off at home, and then I had to meet her back at her house to get a ride back to school on, Sunday evening. But I was running late, so my dad had to take me home, and I beat her back to school. And I'm like, how did I beat her back to school when she left hours ago? Like, so then the next day she came in and she had a brace on. She broke her foot. Like, it was a whole bunch. And I was like, what happened? She was like, oh, I wrapped my car. It wasn't the next day, but it was a couple of days later. She wrapped her car around the tree. And I'm like, ooh, girl. And, you know, I was supposed to be in the car, so who would know what would have happened? But, you know, sometimes the very things that we try, you know, is the very things that the Lord is definitely trying to save us from. But yeah, I know that I'm blessed, so I don't let anybody take that from me. So there's probably a lot more things that I've been saved from, and a lot of things that, like, should have happened. They didn't happen just because of my belief, and I firmly and 100% believe that. So, yep, that's me. Brandon, Hillary.
um, I don't know about one specific big situation where I could say, the president's definitely here, but I know I've had tiny daily type of things happen. Um, the biggest notable thing, it almost to the point where it has started to scare me a little bit. So anytime that some big financial burden was going to come through, somehow earlier in that week or month there was some sort of financial I don't want to call it freedom, but some kind of financial relief, man. Like ahead of time, where it was okay, got an extra $200, and then something bad will happen that costs $200.
I definitely can relate to that.
And so, right, so anytime now something, we'll be like, wait, what's coming? Wait a second, wait, pause. Like, no, man, like something coming now. But yeah, it's yeah, that's been, especially in situations where it was something very important, not like a couple $100 because I can get me a pair of boots or something stupid. It'd be like, all right, gotta keep the lights on, gotta pay, like something that was very specific, that was very essential. Those type of things will happen, you know. So that, and then overall, just daily survival, man. I feel like there's a lot of near misses. I've had some near misses, like physical harm near misses, and people showing up at a very specific time to intervene with something bad going on. Where either they're earlier than they normally would, they're later than they normally would, but it's the perfect time to be late. Something like, that person didn't show up at that time. And it was always like, something told me to do this. They'd still say something like that, like I was, like normally, And it's always that. I'm like, okay, like something's watching over me on that one.
Yeah, that's huge.
I mean, plus having, you got a couple friends that are seers and things, sixth sense type of stuff, then, and when they back that up, you kind of be like, all right, okay.
That prophet who be like you.
Yeah, yeah. Good to have those friends with you.
Oh, the prophets.
We gonna get into them on our next, on part 2 of religion.
Yeah, we go good there.
Yeah, we gonna get into them on part 2 of religion.
See, I like the ones that are gifted, but they're not out to make a reputation for themselves. In fact, the one that I know doesn't even like using her gift at all. Like, she finds it to be, well, that's because they don't tell you about it.
No, that's the problem. They do tell you about it.
The ones that don't like it, I'm talking the ones who don't like, who like, they find it. The one I know finds it overwhelming and a bit scary. So she doesn't, like, I have to push for answers about certain things. So I can know, but
well, like I'm about to get into, so let me shut up.
Positive. You said positive, Sherelle.
It's easy to fall into it because we talk about things, but when it comes to the positive aspect of that, I'll write down what they say to me, and I keep it. Like as soon as I hear whatever they're saying, I'll write it down and put it so that I can go back to it later and be like, that happened.
I ain't heard one right yet. We're gonna say that for 2 weeks from now.
Part 2.
I ain't heard one right yet.
I,
That right there. Cause
I have.
all the
I've
time you
had
used to
some
tell
like
me,
stuff happen.
mm, oh yeah,
See,
you
like,
ain't you won't stay
like
here. It ain't
that's
gonna amount to anything.
okay.
And
So
I'm
my turn.
like,
So I know that. I mean, I think I've said this all throughout this call, like how I got to be a single parent. I'm telling you, like when God will stop somebody who wants to eliminate you, who wants to take you out, who threatens your life, and he stops them, and like they have no idea that they have no power in themselves. God has like definitely been there for me that way. And then even like I don't like people will like look at me and be like, how you, because I got 5 kids. Well, they're not kids anymore, but I had 5 kids. I mean, like I raised them for 13, going on 13 years it'll be now. And like I'm telling you, like I will sit down with people, they be like, and you have how many kids? And you still, I'm like, I thought this was normal. But they're like, no, you should be in the red. And I wasn't in the red. I was, I was in the black. So like, and then there were times when like people would just like bring groceries and I didn't even ask. I didn't say nothing to nobody. Not only that, but like personally, like I know my mental health is
then why are you looking like that?
because Brandon, the
I'm
space
trying. I'm
always.
trying to. I'm trying to listen harder. Cause she's choppy again. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Hillary.
I'm here, and then get up, and he'd be like, "You're good. Let's go."
Right.
I tried to move because I was kind of like breaking up or whatever. But yeah, so I'm just like, first of all, can't nobody tell me that there ain't a God, and then can't nobody tell me that when you pray, God don't hear you. And just because your prayer don't get answered right away, that
Don't mean
doesn't
it
mean
ain't gonna
anything. Because like I have like prayed and asked God, and then like later on it be like stuff be like boom, 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 and I'd be like,
There it is. 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 Over there.
you
Over
got
there.
me. You got me.
Right.
Look,
This
I'll be
year
like,
was a big.
yeah,
This year
that ain't
showed that.
nobody but God. Shoot, let me
Yes.
tell you. So I'm just kind of like, that's why I be telling my kids. I be like, listen, you know how people be like, in all your ways acknowledge him, and kids be thinking, oh, you need to be on your knees screaming and how I know. Listen, when you wake up in the morning, turn around and say, thank you, God, or good morning, God. Acknowledge him. You know what I mean? I was telling them kids that. I was telling my oldest son that in college. I was like, just because I'm not there with you in college, and just because it's not the same there, listen, when you roll over, you look up and you say, good morning, thank you, because you got another wake up. And, say your prayer and keep it moving, but don't ever not acknowledge him because he's there always. So nobody can tell me that God don't hear you. Even whenever you ain't in the place where you really should be, he still hears you.
Right.
Yeah, the way he works things out, it's like, oh, you hurt me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hillary, you said, how you said like, he'd be moving people from you. Like I have learned that in the most ignorant ways. And like that's just cause like, Sherelle, you remember when I was working at Allegheny General and I was just so stressed out and like, and I didn't know what I was gonna do because I was like, I can't just up and quit my job. I just had a baby. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, what am I gonna do? So I had this day where, like I said, I just cried out. Literally, like I was like, I'm not gonna move until you move me. And then like, I don't know, like a month later, they fired me and I was boo-hooing and I was like, this is not what I wanted. But then everything else just fell into place and like it made complete sense. And I'm like, and like that burden of being there was just lifted from my spirit. Like I was just so like boggled down by like this individual and this person who was like trying to like not, you know, kill me physically, but spiritually and emotionally. Like she would just ride down on you all day long. And it's like, you know, this woman don't even know how bad I need this job. Like, woo. But when I was moved from there, I was able to have freedom to go back to school like I wanted to. And I've been going to school ever since. My family has never needed or wanted for nothing with only one income. And it's just crazy how things just move whenever you pray. Like I'm a big firmer in getting on your knees and praying, like when things just don't go right. Like even before they don't go right, like I pray all the time about everything. Like I'm still that person. When I get in my car before I leave, I pray. Like when I wake up in the morning, it's like you said, Hillary, simply it's just saying, I just say thank you for waking me up this morning. That's it. Like that's all that's needed. And like, you know, I'm teaching my child, like she knows to say her blessing. It starts with a little thing. Y'all heard her say her blessing when we
Yeah.
read the thing. She, but it's just the little things to acknowledge. Like that thing, once the seed is planted, it will grow. It will. So
On a more surface level, when you're dating the wrong person,
ooh, preach.
and you keep every song you hear, every TV show you watch, every meme that pop up, it got something to do with God and you changing the people you around and him calling for you to be better and him changing, making your circle smaller, you removing certain people out your life. And like, he be like telling you like break up with her or break up with him.
Leave him alone.
Like either you do it or I'ma do it.
Leave him alone. Let him go.
You do it or I'ma do it. And
Listen,
like,
I remember I was like, I'll never stop loving him. It'll take God to do it. Listen, let me tell you.
Don't say them words.
God said, okay.
Go ahead if you want to.
You said it's going to take me. All right. Let me do it. And when he did it, I was like, I will never say that again in my life.
Never.
I will just let the person go. I don't want God to take God to make me let somebody go. I just
or
want
anything,
to let them
or
go.
anything, or anything at that.
So when people be like, Hillary, why you like that? Say, she already learned. She just kind of let it go.
I let go and let God, girl. I let go and let God. That's what I did.
Showed her that, yeah, I will never say that again. After that happened to me, and God was like, well, you said it was going to take me for you to just, I was like, okay.
Oh, so you
he
want
know
me
how to get your attention when he wanted.
Oh, so you want to let go. Oh, so you ain't gonna let go. That's what you saying,
right? Oh, you said you ain't gonna let. Okay, all right.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show up and show out.
He forewarned you. Every show you watch, every song you play, every channel you turn to is something saying to break up with that person.
But you know what else though? You know what else I did? Because y'all know I love my husband, right? I love him. I do.
Lord knows I
do. But I had to pray for this brother because I didn't know if he was the one or not. And I had to ask. I said, Lord, listen, I said, you got to show me if he's the one or not, because if not, I'm walking. Like, because it was that point, there was just some things with me and him that we didn't see, you know, like, for instance, like, you know, I'm not, when it comes to being spiritual and church and religion and stuff like that. He's not as big on it as I am. So when I say that, meaning like, he's a more private person. Like he does his prayer himself. Like I'm a firm believer in when you're married, you pray together. And I never seen him in that light. Like I told him, I was like, I want to start taking the baby to church. We don't have to go to church every Sunday, but I think that we should find a church that we're both comfortable with going to, because he grew up Presbyterian, and I'm like, I don't know nothing about no Presbyterian, and I took him to church with me. So, I told him, I said, well, maybe we need to find something kind of in the middle or non-denominational, something that we could just teach her and, kind of set that plant for her to grow in her spirituality. And he was like, nah, I'm good. like, I'm like,
Wait, maybe he was good though. I don't know.
He said that he has learned everything that he needed to learn religiously because he was kind of like us. He went to church all the time. His grandma took him to church. Like his parents dropped him off with his grandma, and his grandma made them go to church. He was an altar boy. He did all of that good stuff. He said that he has learned everything that he needed to learn. So
that sounds like my dad. Like this whole church PTSD, like oversaturated. And...
Right. So he feels like he didn't have to go. So I just, but there were some other things, like every couple has their issues, problems, and whatever. But I had to pray for that brother. I did. I had to pray for him. I was like, if he's for me, then make it known. Because if he ain't, then we could be friends. But, if that sign was given, I was like, all right, okay, all right.
Sometimes
right.
It'll take that other person some time. They got to go through some things to get to a certain place spiritually or whatever.
No, you know what he said to me to make me know that it was my I had to check it off my list. He turned around to me one day and looked at me. He said, God ain't through with me yet. And I was like, what? I was like, what? Well, check. All right, cool.